So I'm seeing some coverage of this bathroom bill coming up, quote unquote, in Canada. It's not the bathroom bill that you're seeing in North Carolina. It's the exact opposite of that. The right has dubbed it a bathroom bill, but it's really actually just it's a human rights bill that acknowledges that trans people are human beings and should be protected under the law as other people have been. But of course, the crazy people in the right wing want to call that a bathroom bill because they want to focus just specifically on that. And there's a big difference in the coverage. I've got a link here. It'll come up in the description. And the link goes to an article at the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which is the state-run media in Canada. And there's a video at the bottom with a well-known personality from Canada, along with what she calls her power panel, which changes on a day-to-day basis. But she just brings in talking heads, and they talk about things, right? Typical news program. My comment on that is that it's an interesting juxtaposition when contrasted to the US coverage, isn't it? I'm requesting that you watch the video at the bottom, where a conservative senator explains why he's going to vote in favor of trans rights, and a second conservative talking head actually starts tearing up when she's describing the absurdity of the debates that she knows are going to come up at the Conservative Convention. The Conservative Party will choose a replacement for Stephen Harper in 2017. The first guest on the panel suggests there's a political aspect to what's going on here, and I actually entirely agree. But note in self what that implies. It's a very different context than in the United States, where Obama is just finishing out his term and can basically do whatever he wants without fearing any consequences. This is the kind of thing that Obama can do in this kind of a session, right? Because he doesn't have to worry about upsetting people because he's leaving anyways, right? In Canada, it's very different, right? You have a young prime minister that's just starting his term. There's no term limits in Canada, and people generally expect prime ministers to stick around for at least 2 or 3 terms. A lot of it really depends on their age, right? The last prime minister that we had that was very long lasting was Jacques Chrétien in the 90s, and he was, his own party forced him to step down because he was getting pretty old. But he probably could have stayed there for another 10 years, right? His father was prime minister for all in all, I think it was for 19 years when he ended up, right? So this is a young prime minister that's, in the process of defining himself, and he's standing up in favor of these trans rights because he thinks it's a political winner. He thinks it will help him politically. And he's actually probably right, too. It's a big contrast, right? In the States, people are, if you're standing up for this, you're standing up for it because you're standing up for it on principle. If you're fighting against it, you're doing so because that's where you think the political gains are. And the moderates, quote unquote, are just kind of stepping on pins and needles, trying to be careful about what they're saying so they don't irritate either side, right? In Canada, it's a populist issue to support trans people, or at least that's what the prime minister is calculating, and I think he's right. Okay, I'm going to switch my battery. So we got a natural stopping point here because I'm going to ask about the legislation next. What about the legislation, though? These bills have come and gone, and they never really excite me. They point out that it's been to the Senate 6 times and failed every time. It's been kicking around for, I think we can say decades. So do I think the gender expression should be protected under Canadian law, human rights law, under Canadian human rights law, and barred as a legal means of discrimination? Sure. And do I think that violence against trans people is a hate crime if it's because they're trans? Absolutely. So it's not like I oppose the bill or something. These are positive changes. If you actually look at the legislation, it's like literally inserting 2 words into the human rights bill, right? And those 2 words are gender expression in the list of things that you can't discriminate against. It's a very small amendment, and ultimately, I think that the correct analysis is that it's an entirely trivial amendment. do I think the solution to discrimination and marginalization is for the Parliament to amend the Human Rights Code by by 2 words? I really don't. Okay? This isn't a political issue in any way except as a vehicle for opportunism, a way to push identity politics, a way to make the opposition look bad. Okay? And, that's fine. I don't really like the opposition. Let's make them look bad, sure. But the truth is that as an actual issue, if you're actually concerned about trans issues and trans rights, this is a social issue, okay? And the work that needs to be done is at a social outreach level. You have to talk to people. You have to change attitudes, okay? And changing the Human Rights Code by 2 words doesn't change anybody's attitude, okay? The comparison to gay marriage is consequently badly misplaced. Letting gay people get married is a positive right that can be enacted with the stroke of a pen. I know it's important to the people that want to get married and that are gay, but I mean it's not a social change in attitudes, really, right? Saying that gay people can get married, it doesn't matter what people that don't like gay people think, right? If putting in place a legal structure that recognizes this doesn't have anything to do with homophobia, right? You can hate gays all you want, they're still going to be able to get married, right? So that's a positive right. But ensuring that trans people are safe from violence and allowed to participate in a society without discrimination, that's a negative right. It has many decades worth of fighting before it comes to fruition. Okay, this isn't gay marriage was something that happened at the very end of the movement for gay equality, right? There's still lots of discrimination, but it's pretty much, the process has come through, right? Trans people are still at the, what were those riots in the 60s? Just a second here. It was Stone something. Stonewall, that's right. There's a bookstore in Ottawa called after Stonewall. That's why I remembered that, because that was the first time I'd ever heard of Stonewall. Trans people are still at their Stonewall moment, okay? I think everybody hopes that nobody gets hurt, but that's, it's still at the point where there needs to be social outreach. People need to have attitudes changed. There needs to be more integration, and people just need to get used to it, okay? So this is two very different things that are fundamentally different and that are separated very far in time. Maybe trans people will be beyond Stonewall shortly, if we're lucky, but right now we're not, okay? We're still just coming out of the shadows. Okay, and we can't talk about these positive rights. We're not even recognized as people under the law, right? But I just went through a process saying that this doesn't matter, and then at the end I come to the conclusion that, it is a positive step forward, okay? But is it going to actually change anybody's life? It won't, okay? The things that will change people's life have to do with talking to people, getting used to them, and just integrating, right? But sure, it's positive to have the Prime Minister on your corner anyways. It's better than the alternative, right? So it's a lot of politicking, and that's fine. But let's not confuse ourselves. Let's not mistake this for, real activism.